Today has been rooted in our shared recognition that the interests of both our nations and the lives of both our peoples can be advanced if our countries deepen and expand our cooperation, and that's what we've agreed to today. First, I want to salute the Kenyan people for their hard-won progress in strengthening their democracy. Millions voted for the new constitution, one of the most progressive in Africa, with its strong protections for freedom of expression, assembly, and the press, and its emphasis on equality and against discrimination. The election 2 years ago was competitive and largely peaceful. Kenya has a determined, active, feisty press, as we see here today. And as I've said elsewhere, a free press helps make a nation stronger and more successful. And it makes us, leaders, more effective because it demands greater accountability. Kenya has a vibrant civil society, which is essential for any democracy. And I look forward to meeting tomorrow with representatives from civil society who stand up for the dignity and the rights of all Kenyans. Dignity begins, of course, with the ability to provide a decent life for our families. And today, President Kenyatta and I agreed to expand the economic partnerships between our peoples that can provide broad-based prosperity.
Well, for the latest, we cross to our reporter, Sarah Kamani. She's in Nairobi in Kenya. Sarah, good evening to you. So this is more than just a visit, isn't it? And the picture tells it all, issues of mutual interest coming under the spotlight, and the main agenda being the Global Entrepreneurship Summit. Take us through that. What was the key message?
Well, indeed, President Barack Obama was in Kenya mainly because of the Global Entrepreneurship Summit, which was for this first time held in sub-Saharan Africa. He spoke about entrepreneurship and the potential that the continent holds, and especially in terms of its young people, giving examples of countries like Kenya, South Africa, and Nigeria, where young people are making use of their mobile phones to spur economic growth, to bring innovations that are actually, providing solutions to challenges that the continent faces. And he challenged entrepreneurs to think about using businesses to fight extremism, to fight violence on the continent, and also to ensure that young people are not idle and therefore are not lured into issues that you see in the East African region, especially issues of terrorism.
And Sarah, there's been a lot of focus on security issues, including around this visit, as well as security across the region, and that extremism is something that needs to be addressed. Did the two presidents look at this?
They did, and President Kenyatta admitted that Kenya was still facing challenges of terrorism and insecurity, and he said that the country was learning on the way from partners and allies, including the U.S. President Barack Obama saying that the U.S. is going to provide an undisclosed amount of money to Kenya to help in training of security personnel, to help in equipping Kenya's security forces. But he was very clear that issues of human rights must be respected, especially when dealing with extremism, saying that if you go on the extreme too much, when you're dealing with issues of extremism, then you risk losing the same people that you're trying to protect, and especially the young people, saying human rights must be respected when when clamping on issues of terrorism.
And you mentioned human rights there, and we know that Kenya wasn't easy about Obama talking about the issue of gay rights. Was this addressed?
Indeed, that was discussed, and it was the first time we saw the two heads of states differing in public. However, very respectively, President Kenyatta saying that gay rights issues are a non-issue in Kenya, saying that they have other priorities as a country. He says that both Kenya and the U.S. agree on many other things, but in terms of culture and in terms of issues of gay and lesbian rights, he says Kenya is not going to back down. However, President Obama saying that African countries must now be more tolerant and they must respect human rights issues, including gays and lesbians, and saying that he will continue being tolerant and he will continue insisting that African countries must now begin to be tolerant and to respect people from all walks of life, not discriminating them even on sexuality.
All right, and Sarah, very briefly, before we run out of time, what remains on President Obama's itinerary?
Well, tomorrow he will meet members of the civil society, and then later on he will address Kenyans in one of the stadiums here, and then he will leave to Ethiopia, where he's expected to make an address, the first by a U.S. head of state to the African Union.
All right, Sarah, thank you very much. That's our correspondent, Sarah Kimani, live from Nairobi, updating us there on President Barack Obama's visit to Kenya. Well, do stay with us. We'll take a short break. More coming up just after.